Good morning everyone, I hope you're well. Today's lesson is going to be all to do with meatballs. So before you think I'm going a bit mad, I promise you there is some maths involved in today's lesson. Specifically, we're going to be looking at these two skills, so finding the volume of a sphere and calculating the volume of a cylinder, both of which we've seen in our lessons recently. The first thing I would like you to do is watch the following video and ask yourself, what question do you think I'm about to ask you? Let me play the video. So, what question do you think I will be asking you? Pause the video if you want some more time to think, but I'm going to reveal the answer now. So the question is, will my saucepan overflow if I add all of these meatballs to my meal? Before we get into the maths, I want you to be thinking, what information would help you solve this problem? I'm about to give you 4 pieces of information. I want you to pause the video now and write down anything that you may find useful to help solve this problem. Okay, so I'm going to give you 4 bits of information. They might be what you wrote down, they might be something different, but either way we're going to work with what I give you. So the first bit of information is, I'm going to tell you that the depth remaining in that pan, so between the top of that tomato sauce and the top of the pan, that is a 4 centimetre gap. So for our next piece of information, I have taken a sample of 5 meatballs and measured them. So my first meatball is 3.6 centimetres in diameter, and so on. My third piece of information I'm going to give you is that the diameter of my saucepan is 5.5 centimetres long. And our final piece of information is, I'm going to tell you that in my little bowl there are 16 meatballs. So, just so you've got all of that information on one screen, here are the 4 pieces of information that I just gave you. Remember, the question is, will my saucepan overflow if I add all of these meatballs into the pan? So it's up to you what you do now. If you are feeling confident with this problem, you can just give it a go now. On your screen is enough information to solve this problem. If you're not feeling confident, leave the video running because I'm about to give you some hints. Okay, so when I don't know how to solve a problem straight away, this is my thought process. I always tell myself, well, if I can't answer the question yet, well, what can I work out? Right? So if I can't answer this main question, if I don't know if it will overflow or not, let's just think, what could I work out with the information that I've been given? Okay, so I've got some prompts for you. I want you to answer, well, what would the average diameter of a meatball be? Right? So I haven't measured all 16 meatballs, but I've got a sample of 5. So maybe if I find the average, so the mean value of that diameter, that's going to help me find the average volume of a meatball. Another thing that's going to be really helpful is if I can find how much volume is left in the saucepan, that's going to help me solve the problem. Right? So again, like I just said, if you're feeling confident to have a go at this problem, please pause the video. Now I'm going to go through my solution. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to answer, what is the average diameter of a meatball? Right, so I have a sample of 5. Let's think back to how we would find the mean of a set of 5 numbers. If I have a set of 5 numbers, all I need to do, I'm going to add these 5 numbers together and divide it by how many numbers I have. So I have 5 values, so I divide by 5. So that tells me that each meatball is, on average, approximately 3.5 centimetres. I personally have just chosen to round to 1 decimal place, but you'll be more accurate if you round to 2 or 3, say. Okay, so if I know that on average a meatball has a diameter of around 3.5 centimetres, that's going to help me find the volume of a meatball. A meatball generally is a sphere, right? It's like a ball shape. It's not a perfect sphere, but a mathematician would generally model this as a sphere. So the volume of a meatball, well, the volume of a sphere, think back to a couple of lessons ago, so it's 4 pi r cubed divided by 3. If we know that the diameter is 3.5, what's the radius? So that's not the radius, that's the diameter. The radius is half of the diameter, so I'm going to do 4 pi multiplied by 1.75 cubed, all divided by 3. So typing that into my calculator, again I've rounded to 2 decimal places, so I've rounded quite early, so that will give me 22.45 centimetre cubed. So that's the volume of a meatball. Okay, so if I know how much space each meatball takes up, if I work out how much volume, so how much space is remaining in the saucepan, I'm going to be in a very good position to solve this problem. Okay, so remember what we said. Our saucepan has 4 centimetres left of empty space at the top of it. We know that that saucepan, it's roughly a cylindrical shape, so it's a cylinder. To find the volume of a cylinder, well, I just find the area of the circle and multiply it by the height, because a cylinder is a type of prism. Okay, so it's pi r squared multiplied by the height. Okay, so the radius of my saucepan is 7.75. I know that because if the diameter is 5.5, the radius is half of the diameter. Okay, so using my calculator, that tells me that there is 754.77 centimetre cubed worth of space or volume left in my saucepan. Okay, so if I know how much space one meatball takes up, how much space does 16 meatballs take up? Well, 16 meatballs, each takes up 22.45 centimetre cubed. So 16 meatballs, if I multiply my one meatball by 16, that tells me that the meatballs should take up 359.2 centimetre cubed worth of volume. So let's answer the question. Right, so remember the question is, will that saucepan overflow if I add all those meatballs? Well, this is how much space the meatballs take up. This is how much space there was left remaining. Well, the answer is no. In fact, it's nowhere even close, is it? So let's watch the video and see if we were right. Okay, so that pan has clearly not overflown after 16 meatballs, so we were correct, and there's lots of space left to fill up. I now want you to look at the moment I've paused this video on and tell me, what question do you think I'm going to ask you next? So pause the video if you need some time to think. What question am I about to ask you? So we know at least 16 meatballs will fit into this pan. My next question to you is, how many meatballs will it take for my saucepan to overflow? Again, I would like you to pause the video and answer this question for yourself, and then when you're ready for the solution, please unpause the video. So let's remember what we calculated before. We know that the volume remaining in our saucepan is 754.77 centimetre cubed, and we also know that each meatball is approximately 22.45 centimetre cubed. So can you think what calculation will tell me how many meatballs will fit into this pan? Well, I want to know how many 22.45s will fit into 754.77. Well, this is a division problem, right? If I do 754.77 divided by the volume of each meatball, that tells me that, in theory, around 33 meatballs should fit in the pan. Before we watch the video showing us the final answer, I want you to be thinking about, is there anything else we should consider? Have we accounted for every real life practicality that's going to happen in this problem? Right, let's watch the video. So, we calculated 33. Do you think in the video there are going to be exactly 33 meatballs that can successfully go in this pan and then overflowing on 34? Or do you think we've made an overestimate, or do you think we may have made an underestimate? So make a prediction, and now let's see what happens. Okay, so we can see that after 36 meatballs, that sauce, if you just see here in the video, just about started to dribble over the edge. So we calculated that 33 meatballs should fit in the pan. However, when we watched the video, we saw that 35 meatballs could fit in the pan, where that pan only spills over on the 36th meatball. Does that mean that all our calculations were wrong? Well, no, I'm going to tell you my calculations were fine. Perhaps I could have rounded a little bit more accurately, but generally the way I worked it out, my method was absolutely fine. So what's the problem then? What I would like you to do, pause the video and think, why is what happened in real life in the video, so why did that give us a different solution to the maths that we worked out? I can think of at least 5 reasons. I want you to come up with as many reasons as you can. So pause the video and think, why was it different to what we worked out? Okay, so I can think of quite a lot of reasons. You might be able to think of even more than me, but I wonder if you got some of these ones. So, first of all, have you ever noticed that if you fill up a glass, like a mug or a pint glass or something like that, right to the very brim, the level of water can actually go slightly higher than the lip of the glass. So you can also see this if you get, say, like a penny and you drop some water on it. So that water can actually balance on that flat surface to a certain extent before it all spills over. That's something called surface tension that you could research if you're interested. Another reason I can think of is that, well, do you remember our meatball volume figure? We only sampled 5 meatballs. We didn't sample all 35 or 36 of those meatballs. We only measured 5, right? So we might have just picked up some abnormally large or small meatballs compared to the rest of the sample size. So our figures were only estimates. We haven't measured every single meatball. Some more reasons I can think of. Well, if you actually look at meatballs, they're not really spheres, are they? Okay, they're kind of in the shape of a ball, but they're not perfectly round. See, they're quite bumpy, and they've got some holes in them, and some are squished more like oval shaped than perfectly circular. So meatballs are not perfect spheres. However, it's a reasonable estimate to use the volume of a sphere in our calculation. And then the last one I could think of, well, I don't really eat meatballs, so I wouldn't really know this, but are meatballs a bit spongy? Would they absorb any sauce? Yeah, so if they go into that tomato sauce, they might absorb some of it, which means that that meatball would in theory take up less volume than it appears to. Right? Okay, so some final thoughts to take away from this lesson. If you're interested in this extension challenge, what you could do, you could take your answer to the question that we just done. If you squished all of those meatballs into one epic fat meatball, would the pot still overflow? So if you're interested, please give that a go, do some maths to explore that problem. And I'm also very, very curious to know, could you think of any interesting questions like that one based on this scenario? So have a think. Could you be creative with this? Can you think of a good question worth asking? If you've got one, I would love to hear it. So just like always, guys, please show me what you've been working on. So take a photo of your work or hand me in a Word document, something like that. That's absolutely fine. And as always, please just let me know if you need any help. All right, thank you very much, guys.